Yo, hey, what's up, everyone? It's your good friends, Koerri Elijah and Daniel Thompson,
Hello, everyone.
and we are here with a brand new podcast. Maybe a weekly podcast, maybe a monthly podcast, might be just something we do whenever we have an idea of something we want to talk about, and then we'll record it and film it and bring it to you guys. But we don't have a name yet. So we'll figure that out. Maybe you'll know by the time you hit play on this video because we would have decided on the name of the podcast and named it that. Maybe not.
Maybe it's just gonna be untitled.
Right. So you'll know, and when you do know, just make sure you keep it in the back of your mind and remember to come back and find us, because this is going to be something we're going to have a lot of fun with. A lot of people know us for doing things, on the news side of things.
Yeah, a little more serious, less fun. Really, a lot of the things we've had to talk about in the past couple of years were not so great. But, in the downtime, me and Koerri, we realized that we're both super into, comic books and kind of the DC universe, the Marvel universe, and we've talked extensively about a lot of things, and it's always been really fun for me, and I think it's been fun for you too. So it's bringing that to you guys too and letting you in on it, because we're not always serious, and legitimately we both get really excited about this stuff.
Yeah, and we have some really dope stuff to talk about today, which is why we're doing this, why we're starting this. Like you said, we've kind of been having conversations for a while about the subject matter, but we've never really got to sit down and present it to you. But we did a panel at Comic-Con, and we posted that, and we got some feedback from people, and people wanted to hear more stuff like this, which kind of sparked the idea.
Yeah.
Doing this as a podcast, and now we're here doing this as a podcast. So
yeah, and of course, just with the timing of when we're starting it, really, the first thought for the first episode for me was Spider-Man No Way Home. And really, if I'm just going to start with initial reaction, besides Endgame, I think of that universe, for me, it was the most satisfying movie. I don't know if I think it's been out long enough that I don't have to do a heavy spoiler alert.
But, if you haven't seen it, because it's still in theaters.
Yeah, exactly.
Spoiler warning, because we're going deep in. But it's been a couple weeks now. So, we should be in safe territory.
Yeah, we should be in the safe area. But yeah, spoiler alert. So, this movie was satisfying because it legitimately wrapped up 3 generations of Spider-Man stories and universes all in a span of between 2 and 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of, I was about to say I marvel at it, and I was like, is that a horrible pun? But I was really I kept being continually impressed by the writing of it, and how clever they had to be, because for one, I almost peed myself a little when Andrew Garfield, took off his mask. And then I got really anxious because I'm please don't close the portal. This better be, what I thought it would be, a team up, not just cool, he showed up, and then he just gets kicked back in somehow and he's gone.
Right.
But, the way that they introduce the different personalities, and just the way that I think, for me, what made the dynamic between the 3, so Tobey Maguire, of course, the OG Spider-Man that we all grew up with, came back to shortly after.
Saw him at the Kino Drive-In.
Man. Dude, I might have gasped a little bit, he's back. But, the thing that made the film work as kind of a team-up, and what made it satisfying, I think, for me, is that they didn't introduce, whereas they de-aged Doc Ock to meet the timeline, when he would have been before he died. I liked that they didn't do the same with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. They decided to have them be kind of the older mentor, the middle child, and then Holland being the young guy. Because it not only it made it as satisfying because with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, Spider-Man 2 is like almost immaculate. Like that was like the greatest superhero film. And then it was followed up with the ending of, what came with Spider-Man 3 and like I like to pretend that doesn't exist,
as we love Topher Grace.
Yeah, as much as like I love the actors in it, like no, I hated that ending to that whole like that story particularly. And it left a lot of things in question. Like you didn't get the satisfying like, marriage of Peter Parker and Mary Jane. You didn't get like the happy ending for that particular Spider-Man. He was more like kind of in the calm part after a huge storm. And you were hoping like everything worked out in the end. So for me, they got to wrap up our generation, our first Spider-Man, because all these little callbacks of mentioning how him and MJ, figured it out. Right. And then he says he's trying to be better. And you can tell, like, he's just kind of, like, settled into being Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And kind of a...
Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's finally achieved that balance that you saw him struggling with in his initial series. So it's, like, super, like... He could never show up in another movie, and I feel like his story is complete, Right. And then you have Andrew Garfield, who, like... The way that his universe kind of worked out, right. And his turn as Spider-Man, like, it was left as this very, like, it was very unsatisfying. Because, like, it's the first one that really depicted the tragedy of, like, losing Gwen Stacy, right. Which is, like, the lowest point for Peter Parker. But then you never see him, like, come back up. So you're just like, okay, that Spider-Man was left in, like, I don't know what became of him, but it wasn't good. Right? And then he kind of, you see that, yeah, he totally admits that he stopped pulling his punches. Like, he's almost like the darkest version of Peter Parker out of the three. And then you get the moment where, like, he gets to save MJ. And, like, the way that he played that, like, just immediately he's, like, about to break down because he's thinking about Gwen Stacy, like, having those little, like, redemptive moments for him, like, I, like, loved it. Loved that. Plus, I think Andrew Garfield is, like, my favorite Spider-Man.
And it kind of, like, left it open for him to potentially, come back when maybe we'll, end the trilogy off. Maybe we will get that Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Exactly. Like, it's like they left it in a place where, like, he could finally have that, like, third redemptive, like, finally become, the lighthearted, like, more jokey Spider-Man. That he kind of is, but, like, right. Not quite.
Yeah, he was, like, I mean, he is definitely, like, I know, like, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is our generation, but, like, that's our generation as kids, right? The Andrew Garfield Spider-Man is our generation, but, like he was our age, like we would be his age when we were teenagers, like that would be our Spider-Man,
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's almost a sweet spot of discovering like that Spider-Man that's at like the end of high school about to go into college. Like that's like the good spot I'd say to encounter him, because that's like a significant period. Plus, he's not too young or too old. Like, you can identify with what he's going through. Right. So, like, there was a lot. I think there was really a lot to love about even the Amazing Spider-Man, series and just everything with him. And again, I'm one of those people like him. If I don't see him pop up again, like, unlike my reaction to Tobey Maguire, like, I would be so mad if, like, he doesn't.
I would love to see it. I would love to see him, especially since, we're talking spoilers, and we'll get back to your point, but how Venom is back into the Sony universe. So it's, and if they want to make money, and we're in the age of binge watching, and, not only are we in the age of binge watching, but it's comic book genre, In comic book genres, there's sometimes multiple runs going simultaneously at the same time of, like, of the same character, especially like Batman and stuff like that.
Dude.
So why not, you can still have the MCU Spider-Man, which we're aware of and is real, but there's also the multiverse, and you can still go and you can have the Sonyverse without, and you can still allow Tom Holland to do what he's doing in the MCU, because who knows how long that will go. Maybe it'll go on for a long time, but then you can still dive into these like great stories that people kind of want. There's a lot of buzz online right now for Andrew Garfield. So I mean, I think if they pulled the trigger on that, people would go. I mean, I'd like to see it again. I feel like that's my generation Spider-Man. So it would be cool to see him, like a Spider-Man my age that we know now, that has gone through a lot of turbulence in a period of darkness, but now had that redemption, to see an older Spider-Man, but not necessarily really old, come back and really tackle dealing with that and having that redemption.
I do feel like he's very identifiable, because okay, Tobey Maguire was I think maybe he was the Spider-Man that we maybe would have more leaned towards, overall, right, had like the past 5 to 10, like 5 years haven't or anything like that. Like Andrew Garfield, I think like his Spider-Man is a troubled one, and like he's very in an uncertain place, and like I think, especially now, like I think for me, having a Spider-Man that's wrestling with kind of the same things that I think is just kind of part of the general feel at the moment.
Right. And the generation, like it's kind of like a generational thing. That's why I keep on kind of tying it back to like our generation, because it just feels like he deals with a lot of the same things like people of our generation deal with and could relate with. And to see a Spider-Man that like I always kind of saw as the most relatable Spider-Man to me is, I guess you would I'd label myself as like an average person, not necessarily like a nerd, but not necessarily like a super cool person. Seeing myself as just a regular person. But, to me, I just identify with him the most, although I can identify with all of the Spider-Man, but that's what makes Andrew Garfield Spider-Man so appealing to me, and that's why I would love to see him come back.
Dude, legit, I would be so excited for it, especially since, like, to your point, and I legit said the exact same thing about the multiverse to somebody, like, within the last 24 hours, almost word for word. Because, like, the thing that frustrates me is that the movie universe, comic universe, is only recently starting to embrace kind of the, not ridiculousness, but, like, the more imaginative nature of the comics. Like, the multiverse, like having an Earth 1 and an Earth like 30, and like Batman of all sorts and like Superman have been breeding ground for so many stories throughout the decades of all these characters. And it's always been weird to me, especially, honestly, with Batman, it frustrates me. Because they've always only wanted one Batman in movies, right? They always make a big deal out, like an actor becomes Batman. It's like, oh, I guess the other guy's running is gone. I'm like, guys, legitimately, as we speak, there's Batman comics and Detective Comics. And people that follow it don't get the storylines messed up. Like, they can separate two different versions of a character. Right. Just have multiple Batmen. Have multiple Spider-Men. People will watch all of them. Like, they like the character.
Right. And that's like the biggest thing that you hear about the MCU right now. Like, there's a thirst for content. Whereas, like, they're like, I love what's going on. And, of course, everything's not perfect, but I like that they're trying new things. And every new IP that's coming out seems to be its own thing with its own kind of twist, its own genre within itself, or whatever it may be. But I'm always like, man, I have to wait. How long do I have to wait for something else? Where it's just like, man, you're giving me 6 episodes, you know, and it's just like I appreciate it. I love that it's serialized and I get to wait every week and I get to see something. But to me, as a consumer, I'm like, it's just, you could just keep going. I know this stuff costs money, but at this point, I'm sure at least Marvel knows, like, whatever you make, people are going to watch. Even if it's over like a period of time, people are eventually going to watch everything that you put out. At least the people that are fake, that are coming and paying for Disney Plus anyways. I'd rather have too much stuff to watch than not enough stuff to watch.
Very true. Very, very true.
And with the multiverse, I mean, you could give us so much, and maybe they'll lean into it now that they've opened Pandora's box. But I don't know, we'll see.
They kind of have this. Well, with Marvel, they're turning hard into like multiverse stuff. Like with DC, there's 2 indications that they're open to like all of that, which is the Flash movie, which may or may not be doing like a Flashpoints type thing, but like before they earned it. So, and then there's also
very true. Very true.
There's also the Batman, which is like set supposedly on Earth too. So I'm like, so you're starting to acknowledge the multiverse, which we can go into a whole thing about this at another time.
I mean, the Arrowverse, you know, they acknowledge, they full on. I mean, that was the DC catalyst. Like everyone's kind of looking to, you know, everyone's really looking at, you know, the Flashpoint movie or the Flash film, I should call it, because maybe it won't be Flashpoint. Maybe it'll only be kind of Flashpoint and leave it open for us to actually get Flashpoint. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe,
hopefully.
Probably not, but I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I just feel like they should continue to just like open up and make all of this stuff, you know. But the Arrowverse was really that catalyst point, because I mean, Crisis was. I mean, they brought in Ezra Miller. They're saying that Grant Gustin is going to be, you know, in the Flash movie. So
pretty cool.
I mean, he deserves it, honestly, because he's carrying the Arrowverse now. I mean,
yeah, he is.
I mean, let's be real. The only show the only show that I really watch is the Flash now. That's left. Although I like Legends and stuff like that.
Dude,
but the Flash is really the only thing that's holding it up. And I mean, the Flash is only kind of barely holding it up now. How long is the Flash gonna last? So, I mean, that's why they need to kind of just double down, go hard into the multiverse and continue to just make all of these IPs and, you know, but who knows?
To your point, you know what? Why I wholeheartedly agree with you is the same reason why those shows are starting to like suffer is because think about this. WB, I think Warner Bros. Has always like owned all of them. Whenever there was going to be a movie version of a character, they would not let the TV shows touch them.
Right.
So like there were whole plans for like the Suicide Squad and like Arrow, whole like storylines they had to just completely kill.
Right.
Like Deathstroke, who was one of my favorite characters in like Arrow.
Yeah, that's why they killed him. Yeah, because
they had to take him out because they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this movie version of Deathstroke, which we're actually not gonna have.
Which actually, never happened. So I know. And then it's so sad to see how it happened, and it sucks that the Flash movie has to be the catalyst for them to fix all of this, because I mean they had the opportunity to just like they had things going. And they could, like the Arrowverse, when it was at its peak, they treated it like it was not the thing holding up DC when it actually was.
Exactly.
And they doubled down into the Snyder universe, which is, you know, looked good at some points, but also a lot of it was kind of, let's be real, a lot of it is like, what are you doing? Why would you kill Nightwing? Why is Robin?
Dude, okay, yeah.
Like, there's just things in that, like when you're trying to make a prime universe, you shouldn't do that happen. And the Arrowverse was more of a Prime universe than what the heck. That's not, that's
I'll
not
take
true.
I'll take
And
that.
people were into it, like loved it. I faithfully was watching the Arrowverse shows when it was at the height of the Arrowverse. Like going to Comic-Con to see these people when they come to speak. I got freaking a bunch of different, like, we got freaking Arrowverse Funko Pop. And so.
No, dude, I did love the Arrowverse, especially because it was something new, I think, at the time. Like, Smallville was the original, like, try to have, like, a kind of a Justice League type universe.
They have the writing, but they didn't have the money.
Exactly.
The Arrowverse had actual funding where they could have suits, they could have the CG,
And they had, honestly, like, I think Arrow Season 2 is, like, one of the best seasons of any DC show. Like, because the writing was good and just because it nailed the right tone, I think, for that series. Of course, then you got the whole, like, weird, like, WB stepping in and like, yeah, don't use Deathstroke anymore, and like all this kind of weird stuff.
The suit stuff.
But yeah, I mean, you do have a good point because whereas like I love the Snyder Cut, I do just because I don't necessarily like how they went about reaching it. Like,
think of it as as Prime Earth though. That's my only issue with it. If I think about the film as not Prime Earth, then I'm cool. But I always go back to my mind like, oh, this is Earth Prime though. What did they do to Earth Prime? Like,
okay, yeah, I can't really argue against that because yeah, the more I think about it, without Dick Grayson, there's so much that you lose.
Like, it's like, there's, like, what can you really do? What can you, and then also you introduce Darkseid super early, like.
Well, the thing that I hate, okay, this is what, real quick, what killed Snyder's universe.
Lex Luthor Jr.
Why the hell? Why did they do Batman vs. Superman and Doomsday in the same movie? And why were they even fighting?
And it wasn't even Batman v Superman. It wasn't the intro to the Justice League.
Exactly. So, like, no, legitimately, like, Man of Steel, fine. I'll take that as like a universe building, like starter for Superman. What should have happened after that was a Man of Steel 2, where you see him growing into more of a Superman, people actually liking him, so that you believe that they cared when he died in the second film.
No, but it was an Elseworld story. So that's it was not Earth Prime. It was definitely an Elseworld story. It was a whole Elseworlds timeline that was created, and people loved it. Like I said, it looked cool. And that's why I was able to get over like the Jason Momoa Aquaman thing. Like, he's not a bad Aquaman, but but it's like you completely changed like Aquaman as people kind of have always seen Aquaman. Yeah, you made him, I guess, not as stale, I suppose. Yeah. But like, that's not necessarily Aquaman. So to me, again, this is just like, oh, this is like an Elseworld.
It's funny. I never framed it that way, but actually, to me, it makes it much better if you do think of it like as an Elseworlds universe.
To me, it makes it good. Otherwise, to me, if it's not that good to me. Like, it's all right, but it's not that good. Not for
No, you're right.
Piece of.
You're right. You are right on that one.
And not when I'm faithfully watching like The Flash, and this is a CW production that is basic cable or free, channel 18, that anybody can see.
Dude, yeah, the Arrowverse was, apart from one huge thing, the Arrowverse was.
It wasn't perfect. Again, like, it was
the only gripe that I really have with the Arrowverse outright is making Oliver Queen more Bruce Wayne than Oliver Queen. Because when you read like Green Arrow comics, like, yeah, he's a rich guy like Bruce Wayne, but he's like far less serious.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But then again, you got like they were going in thinking they probably never would be able to do Batman. So they're like, we could take a little bit of this so people like it.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, you know,
but like people did. Like I was all in for it. Like it did well for Oliver Queen. And as much as they were limited in the Arrowverse, I will admit, like I think whereas like the movie universe, they tried to be more creative with the mythology. They're like, oh, we gotta like tweak things here and there, and I'm just like, nah, dude. Just people love the way that it was set up in the comics, and there was a lot of thought put in that by really creative people. Maybe just do that.
Yeah, and that's why you see Greg Berlanti being like pulled into the stuff now, because that's what worked. And who knows if he was even like really, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to take, I'm sure, you know, he's a phenomenal person. I know he has original IPs that are doing great. Love Simon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him. But all I'm saying is, like you said, the source material is there. There's all of this stuff. Yeah, all you have to do is adapt it into something that works on television. I think he's done a good job at that, so that's probably why he's getting more opportunities. Maybe that's why they're bringing him in, you know, with like everything. I know he's involved on Titans. I'm pretty sure he's like heading up everything that's going on with the Green Lantern stuff coming out next year. So,
which I'm curious about because, like, to be honest, Green Lantern was never big for me. Like, I never really got into comics or anything like that. So, I'll be interested to see it and try to become a fan.
I'm trying to see Diggle Green Lantern.
That's kind of what I've been waiting for.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. So hopefully they incorporate him somehow as, you know.
Well, maybe he can finally become it now that they're like kind of more open to the multiverse. So, because they were kind of holding him back from it, weren't they?
Yeah. But he opened at the end. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, at the end of, what was that? The end of Arrow?
Yeah, it was the end of Arrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, dude. So,
I'm like,
But man, we did a complete pivot into the Arrowverse, but we were still talking about Spider-Man. So we talked about Tobey Maguire.
We talked about Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. So like
the main guy, we got to get on Tom Holland.
So you know what? I'll be honest. When he was first cast, I didn't really like Tom Holland for Spider-Man, and the only reason why is because he just looked so young. So like, and me. I look how I do, so I couldn't identify with that. Yeah. So like it was hard for me at first, but honestly, as much as I love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man overall, I get why people love Tom Holland as Spider-Man so much, because if you encountered him like me and you encountered Garfield, right? Legitimately, he works out for a whole generation. If you're the right age and you encounter him, like. I see so many qualities in him that so many people could identify with. And what he portrays as Peter Parker. And not only like, I would say for him, he almost always carries Peter Parker and Spider-Man with a childish optimism somehow. Which, like, makes even like the moments, like the heartbreaking moments that he portrays, like it's still like, no matter how old he gets, it's almost like it breaks your heart because like, he's so heartbroken over it because he believes so much in like things might work out, or like he's trying to be positive about everything or keep his head up. But the thing that I love about Tom Holland Spider-Man is that he's been put through so much in his trilogy. And just every appearance in the Marvel, like he literally got injected into Civil War, and from then there was a hop, skip, and jump to now he's in space, and then he's getting snapped out of existence. Like,
and I think this was, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion how I feel on this. It made me like Kevin Feige so much more, and it made me appreciate his mind and his genius so much more, because not only was it like a great culmination of events to see him, you know, going through all of those moments and going through all of this stuff, but it also created like a conversation where people are like, what's his origin? We never seen his origin story. What is his origin story? So it kept people thinking throughout the entire time, like, but are we ever gonna hear those words? Like, what about Uncle Ben? Like, there's all these questions that people had the entire time that it seemed like they just were not even, like, they just didn't care. They're like, yeah, MJ is a completely different MJ. Like, Ned's his best friend, you know. Like, you know, there's, you know, Uncle Ben's nowhere to be found. Is there even an Uncle Ben, you know? So, like, all of that was just always in people's minds, and everybody has this idea of, like, who Peter Parker is, right? Who is Peter Parker? But every Peter Parker is different. Every Peter Parker is an individual, and it's like it was so great to get to the third film and to have them wrap up like.
Oh, dude, the way that like they revealed like or resolved the whole Uncle Ben thing.
Yeah, it just wrapped it up, and it was like this. It made every experience that Peter went through his origin, right? And it's not the standard origin that you like. He has gone to space. He has gone. You know, he's been snapped away. You know,
dude,
and like all of this happens to him, and then. Now no one knows who he is. Like, he was rich. He's had the best technology. He's experienced what it's like to be an Avenger and fight with the Avengers. Like, that was his origin. Now he's just a random dude with no funding that's trying to get into college. And now we get to see what he does at that point. Because we've always seen Peter Parker at that point where it's like, well, we generally see him at that point where okay, now he's going off into the world. How is he going to handle it? You know, like that's where Tobey Maguire was.
Yeah, that's normally the beginning of the series.
Exactly. And now we're there at the beginning of the series, except we know so much about him. So it just leaves so much for us to see where he goes and to see if he becomes a leader or what he does with the knowledge that he has and the experience that he has that no one else is aware of, but he can utilize to, you know, progress his storyline forward. It's just so interesting. It just leaves it so open for them to do so many different things.
Oh, I think it's brilliant because the way that they wrote, now that you see it, the trilogy all together, to your point, I think the brilliant thing is that whoever was framing it, whether it was, you know, Kevin, whether it was the writers, whether it was, you know, anybody like that, but whoever was overseeing it knew immediately that you would always assume that if you didn't hear it in the first film, that one phrase had already been said to him.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But he had, and then it's like
because you think like, okay, they're just skipping the origin.
And like you said, he goes about everything with that youthful outlook, right? And it's because he's been experiencing all of this without his Uncle Ben dying. He's never had that Uncle Ben is dead point.
Yeah,
We all assume that he had that point, and we're all like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you acting why are you so carefree about it? That's because he had not experienced. He was a spoiled kid.
Yeah.
He was the spoiled Spider-Man that, I mean, it just makes it...
The closest to Uncle Ben up until the third film was Tony Stark.
Yeah. Hey, Max. Max is here. Max always wants food. He's 21. He's always... he probably still... His food is still...
But no, dude, I honestly thought that was brilliant. And no, it's so interesting because, yeah. And, of course, you know, they announced there will be more of Tom Holland films, or I think there will be another trilogy, which will be, you know, without the exposition that normally people had to do, explain the origin. I am really kind of looking forward to what they're able to write, like with just only having to move forward.
Right.
You know?
Man, there's so much that they did. And I mean, they leave opens so much for us to see too. Not only, there's a symbiote, so it leaves it open for Venom to, actually.
It leaves it open for two Venoms. One, the way that I would love if things went kind of to go back to or wrap together, like the fact that, Tobey Maguire, I see his story as complete. Andrew Garfield and both Holland still have these unresolved kind of strings, I'd say. There's more in them. Like, there's more to write for them. They haven't quite reached the end of their mileage. Like, they haven't Frodo'd, like, to me. You know what I mean? But, like, I would love it because now you have the two different Venoms, and you got, like, the Sony universe, and you have the MCU. Just have Garfield be the Spider-Man of Sony. Holland be the MCU Spider-Man. Let the storylines keep going. Like, there's so much they could do with Garfield. Like, they don't have to have a Mary Jane.
Right.
So you'd have almost an alternate version where, let's say, he winds up with Black Cat.
Right. Exactly. So that's, like, I can't wait to see what they do with that, because like you said, exactly, he can end up with Black Cat, or maybe it's just a mission where there's no love interest, where we can experience Spider-Man not in that realm, because now he's past that. And then maybe if you continue, you decide to do more, then you do another one. But I imagine, Tom Holland says he doesn't want to be Spider-Man forever. Who knows if Tobey Maguire wants to come back, and who knows how many more Spider-Man movies that Andrew Garfield would want to do. But then also, when it comes to Venom, who knows how many Venom movies, they really,
exactly.
have in the works, So, and how long will you want to play Venom? So it gives them the opportunity to kind of play with things for a little bit in the Sony universe, wrap some more things up, maybe get to some storylines quickly over there, and then it allows the MCU time to build, some things over here, where Tom Holland, of course, doesn't always want to be Spider-Man, so maybe we can get another trilogy from him towards the end of the trilogy that gives it enough time to introduce, maybe like Venom or an Agent Venom type scenario, and then also a Miles Morales thing, because if you look at it from like the timeline aspect, we still have Donald Glover, that is the Prowler. That is, he doesn't necessarily have to, that he was selected for that for a reason, I imagine, and how they plan things out. Maybe they said, like, we'll need you again in like 10 years to just make an appearance in a movie to introduce Miles Morales, So who knows? There's so much you could do, and my brain is always like, I'm always trying to like think like, what can you do on like because they're playing with so much time.
So like, jumping off your thought of introducing Miles Morales, let's say that we're going with an Andrew Garfield that doesn't have a love interest, I would much rather him take on mentoring Miles Morales and have that be the storyline.
You're right.
That's how you develop both of them. That would be how I would see it. In fact, now I said out loud.
And they could do that right away. They could do that like very, very quickly. And Andrew Garfield he just gave an interview where he was saying he would, if he came back as Spider-Man, he would want it to be like to be for service, because he always wants to be in service of the character, because Stan Lee, that's how he wrote it and that's how he envisioned it. So he would want it to be some sort of service. So what greater service would there be than to train the next Spider-Man? And he's already at the age where you don't have to wait. You can just literally just do that right
Exactly. Boom. Solve that.
Boom. I mean, shoot, man. Sony knows that Miles Morales makes that money. Because Into the Spider-Verse, they're making another one, and I think they have two more on the slate already. So
dude,
this next one and one more. So
keep going with it. Like,
it's working.
I love to see the second generation of heroes, the ones that I'm like, dude, kind of a stepping stone to the next topic we're going to talk about, but like in the same vein. So kind of jumping back to, just for a second, DC Batman. I would love to see either a Nightwing or a Dick Grayson as Batman movie. Make it like, do a Black Mirror.
Ooh.
Do the Black Mirror, like as an Elseworlds movie or something with a Dick Grayson Batman. I would love to see that.
What if they do that on... Well, I think... No, they didn't completely do that on Titans. But they keep on alluding to Dick Grayson becoming Batman on Titans. So maybe we'll see that there. But...
Maybe, but like...
Who knows? I would love to see it.
If I had my wish as like...
I'd love a straight up Nightwing movie. Like straight up just... Like,
dude, I would love one too. Like
like him as a detective, like, you know...
Because here's the thing. I thought about it. The wonderful thing about Dick Grayson is that he's basically the middle ground or the best mixture of Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
In my book.
Yeah.
Like, he's just as smart and a capable fighter as Batman, but he carries the hope and optimism of Superman. So he's definitely a kind of, like...
Yeah.
That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah,
it's like, I can boil it down.
He's
It's
the
like,
guy, man.
dude, yeah.
He's the guy. No,
And he brings that to his run as Batman, too. So it's like,
Hey, I'm here for it, man.
yeah. But, okay, so I don't think I have any more to say on Spider-Man.
What do you think about, think about Ned potentially becoming Hobgoblin?
Dude,
they were setting that. I mean, they basically alluded to it in the movie.
they did. And here's the thing, is like...
I promise I'll never turn evil and try to kill you.
I loved that because I was like,
And I'm in there, I'm like... I'm looking around the theater like, did anybody else catch? Like,
I'm just like, ooh, like 2 movies from now you will. Like, that's like what I'm thinking, like.
I mean, he's been you know, getting lean, hitting the gym and stuff.
Exactly.
Too.
Dude,
like,
I would legitimately love to see it turn like that because it almost like, okay, so I think when the comics did the storyline, like, people found out again. So I wonder what it would be like to have a Hobgoblin and to have an MJ, like, reintroduced, not remembering before, to have them become enemies, and then, like, is there a way that it gets reversed? Can they remember that thing that they forgot? Like, I just don't know, like... I don't know how the storyline... Like, I'm excited for it whenever it happens. But, like, yeah, there's so much up in the air, I think, for me, as far as, like, okay, so everybody forgot that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but they didn't forget that Spider-Man exists.
Right, so everything that Spider-Man did happened.
And it seems
They
like...
just don't know.
So any time that he had been wearing his mask around them, they would remember. So legitimately, there would still be connecting tissue in their brain to just be able to, like, okay, you remember when I was wearing the mask, so let me wear the suit, take it off, like, I've been this the whole time.
But they don't know him, though. They have no experience with him at all. So I'm not even sure. I don't know how long Ned has known Peter Parker. But if he was his best friend for, like, the 16 years before...
And he didn't even, like, notice him in that coffee shop.
Then,
yeah.
There's no way. And
yeah, I guess taking off your mask doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because, like, you would just be revealing to them right then that you're Spider-Man.
But, like,
all of that other stuff, you could tell them all of that, but, like,
well, yeah, I guess
you
because
would still just be a guy that just said, "Hey, I'm Spider-Man," but hey, remember when I like?
Well, yeah, because I was thinking, like, maybe they would remember Peter Parker and they would remember Spider-Man, and then you just point out, like, no, they didn't remember Peter Parker
because they would have never, like. It's like going to the grocery store and you're just like, you walked by somebody in the grocery store, but you don't even register their face or anything like that. You don't know them. You could have been in the same place with someone and, like, you know, you see on the news that the person was, you know, the catfish burglar or something. I was like, oh man, I was in there with the catfish burglar?
Dude, yeah.
So, It is. It is what it is. But yeah, that was the only thing I had left on Spider-Man 2. I thoroughly enjoyed the film.
Dude, I
knew it was going to make a Billy.
Dude, I knew it would be really successful, but I really didn't expect it to be such a perfect ending, you know, in many ways.
They even like slowly destroyed all of the Stark tech. They were just like, there's just like no more Stark tech, and I got to make a suit. There's like all of that stuff that you thought, no, you get nothing. This is the Spider-Man that you wanted. Here's the Spider-Man that you wanted now. All of that fun stuff, the nanites and all of that, that's all gone. We didn't even give them, we sold you toys with not even a new suit. It's just a flip inside out suit. Like,
dude.
They got rid of it all. And they're like, all right, here's Spider-Man.
I know.
That was his origin. Dun, dun. And Kevin Feige was just grinning in the back of the theater. He probably didn't even sit down during the premiere. He was just standing in the back, just grinning the entire time.
Just waiting for the first person to lock eyes with him and just like.
And Amy Pascal is like, I'm so happy I decided to allow you guys to make Spider-Man.
Dude, no, I loved it. I think it was a genius way to introduce Spider-Man into the MCU, and I'm excited for whatever comes next with the MCU Spider-Man, and fingers crossed, a Sony Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield.
Yes. And also, as much as I love, just to add this at the end of this, as much as I love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, I don't want Morbius in the MCU. So Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man could deal with Morbius and Jared Leto, because I don't really want any parts of that. That's just my opinion.
I'll take that. I will take that. I'll definitely take that.
But man, let's get into something that is very, very fresh this week, and something like I even had on before you got here.
Yep. Made me crack up like when I walked in, yeah.
Peacemaker.
Dude.
DC, like this is the first thing that DC has released on HBOMax. That was something that we didn't already see.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, again, Snyderverse people, don't come after me. But this is the first original thing that we didn't see. There was a lot in the Snyderverse that I had seen. It was nice to see it kind of recut and see it in Zack Snyder's vision. But this is the first, brand new thing that is DC affiliated being released on HBO Max. And it's been highly anticipated, well, I guess I won't say it's the first brand new DC thing being released on HBO Max, because the Suicide Squad did come out as well, the same creator, same writer as Peacemaker. But that was a movie. It came out in theaters as well. I saw it in theaters, so I kind of am still kind of separating that.
Yeah.
This is the first HBO original DC,
It's kind of the first glance that we have at what an HBO Max equivalent of a Disney Plus Marvel show is.
Yes.
First time of seeing, what the comparative quality is.
And one thing I'm interested in knowing, especially because I'm not sure if this is, I don't know if this is Prime Earth. I'm pretty sure this is the same universe as the Snyderverse, if I'm not mistaken.
So I was trying to figure that out too, because I would say it's got to be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, but fact check us. Let us know in the comments what it is.
Yeah, please. Well, the only thing that gives me pause would be a mention in the Suicide Squad of why Bloodsport's locked up, which is shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet. Probably would have heard about that in the Snyderverse.
Ooh, yes. Maybe. Well,
so I'm like,
Yeah, but then Harley Quinn, there's a lot of overlap.
I know.
And everything that happened in the original Suicide Squad movie happened.
Right.
And that one was completely connected.
No, we'll say it's in the Snyderverse, but that opens up an interesting kind of conversation.
It could be like an Earth 3 type thing, honestly, where it's.
We'll say it's in the Snyderverse just because I want the conversation about that mentions Batmite I want that to be in the DC. I want it to be like canon.
Okay.
Badly.
All right. Makes sense. I mean, it is canon.
I know.
It's canon wherever it's connected. It's connected somewhere. Well, yeah, we'll say it's connected to the Snyderverse. And it was cool. It's so great to see James Gunn, in control of this DC IP, especially because it has that R rating. Like, if you haven't seen it, just forewarning for you, there's a lot of blood. There is a lot of cursing, and there's boobies from time to time, and man cheeks as well. So
I don't think there's any dong.
No. Well, there's no actual dong. I don't think, but there's definitely whitey tighty scenes.
Oh yeah.
And, you can.
There's some dick slang.
Yeah,
Whitey tighty dick slang.
Yeah, it is what it is. So it's definitely an R rating.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like don't.
R-rating.
This is not a children's DC thing.
This is what kind of has been separating the DCEU from the MCU the entire time.
Yeah.
Them really taking the chance and having that hard R, I would say, rating on a lot of their stuff. And it's great to see a show being handled that way, because a lot of TV that we see, general television, people are into those, like, Narcos and stuff like that, where you're seeing that intense graphic stuff in a serialized, format.
The thing that I like about it myself is that it forces you to see the gore of the violence instead of yeah, he just shot him, but no blood or brain matter or anything. No. It's fine.
Hey Max, how's it going? Yeah, no, they legitimately are just all the way in. But that's James Gunn. It's even with spoiler warning, we're spoilers all of the time.
Spoilers everywhere.
We might as well call this spoiler talk or something like that. Probably won't be the name, but again, we're still shopping it.
Yeah.
But James Gunn is he always just his approach is so great, because you do see all of that stuff. And he's how can we make this the most shocking almost, but also cool?
Dude, he has a way of making the grossest stuff seem almost beautiful.
Yeah, and then then the way he can even joke with it too, it's what is this, pizza? It's no, that's a face. It's just the banter, the humor, the comedy that goes throughout it. But then also how well each character is written on top of that. Each character is an individual. Each character, watching the Suicide Squad, you didn't really get as much character development, because they're forcing the plot along throughout the film, right? And you get to know a little bit about the characters, but you really just get glimpses at the character. This is really handling the characters in the manner of traditional television, I'd say, where you really get to know and love, and you almost feel like you're friends, or these people, you're there with them while this is going on, and you're really getting a real look at who these people are. And John Cena as Chris Smith, as Peacemaker, is absolutely phenomenal.
Dude, he's great.
He's killing it. I wanted to hate him so much. I hated his character.
Dude, I hated him so much in the Suicide Squad.
And now I'm watching the show, and I'm oh, I feel so bad for this guy sometimes. And it's just it's not your fault, man. You don't know, man. You don't know. You're so oblivious, and your upbringing, his dad,
dude.
But all of the characters are so good. Even anyone that has some lines, anybody that you see in the intro, which is,
dude,
the greatest intro in television.
Okay,
2022 is going to be hard to beat that.
I'll be completely honest. The first time that the intro popped on, I was just wait, what? Because I didn't know. I didn't know they had shot it like that. So I'm just I was kind of averse to it. I was just oh, that's weird. By the second episode, I'm this is the greatest thing ever.
it's just when the intro came on, I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay.
Right.
He just comes in.
He just comes in with like his moves, and I'm just like, what?
The 80s hairband music playing in the background, but then also to see all of the characters come in and they're all doing the same choreography, but you're seeing the characters, and it's like not all of these people aren't this goofy, but just
That's the thing that like kills me is like the way that the intro introduces everybody. I'm just like, okay, they all look like they're kind of tied to, like it looks like they're cool with each other. And then you see them in the show and you're like, no. Like, no, not at all.
This is literally like an 80s intro where this is the cast, and none of this really has anything to do with anything. It's completely ridiculous. And here is the show. This really doesn't really represent or resemble. The only thing that really like connects it is the fact that Peacemaker loves that type of music.
Dude, yeah.
It was just like the intro is great. It's so great. I watch it almost every time.
Dude.
When I got to episode 3, I was like, all right, I can't watch it because I'm so invested right now because the show is so good.
Dude, yeah.
And I really wish they would have given us everything because I was
Dude,
like,
me too.
Man, I was like, how many episodes are there? Because I didn't even know. I just hit play. I didn't even look. I was just like, I'm going to hit play. And we'll see what happens after this episode's over. And then it went back to the menu, and I was like, oh, there's 2 more, for sure. But then I got to the end of 3, I was like, no.
Dude, seriously, I was just like, all right, it's fine. It's fine. It'll be fine. You know?
And I'm like,
yeah, it's fine.
Replay episode.
Yeah. No, dude. Honestly, like, the thing that I loved about the Suicide Squad and the thing I love about Peacemaker and the thing that I love in general about James Gunn's projects is like he has a way of making outcasts so relatable, and also he's just like, he's really good at normalizing basically anything. Like, think about how he introduced one of the characters being married to a woman with a child. I think she has a kid. And then think about how seamlessly I think Harcourt deals with like men hitting on her and everything like that. And just the way that all these things that other directors or writers would like try to put some sort of weird emphasis on, like, look at what we're doing.
It would be hacky. Mm-hmm. None of it was hacky. All of it was done like in a way where I was like, and even some of it is in a way where it makes you think past like what it is on the surface.
He doesn't assume you're stupid.
Exactly, and it's like, oh man, there's a few, man, I wish I could remember the point because I really wanted to bring this up, but it's something that definitely stood out to me where it was like, I just recall myself saying, just like watching something and something goes on where it's like, yeah, of course this person is going to say this or believe this. And then after the point, and I was like, but do they actually really feel that? It's just like it almost feels like people are saying things, but they're actually questioning themselves when they're saying things, and it's just the way, like you said, things are just being introduced in a way that are just so real and so natural, and it's just like it doesn't feel forced. It just feels like, oh yeah, this is the situation, and even though each situation is in there and it doesn't feel forced, it does feel significant. Like it's not downplaying it. But
it has weight.
Yeah, but it's not. It's also not there to. It's like if you get it, then you get it. If you don't get it, then it is what it is.
Yeah, he's not going to keep circling back to it. Like, you got it? Huh? All right. Like,
yeah, but even like you were talking about, like the scene in the bar where like Peacemaker is like, it's so like as a guy, like I understand where he's coming from, but I also understand why what you're doing is not the right thing to do. So like I empathize with him in a way because it's like, bro, you've been locked up for 4 years. I don't know, like, what's been going on.
Yeah, right.
I could understand how bad, like, you're probably, like,
yeah.
like trying to find, and that's why you went off with the butterfly. Like, to be realistic and grown up about the situation, I understand where you're coming from. But then also, bro, no. Because everything she's saying is completely right. You're being a creep, bro.
Dude.
Like, so it's like you gotta.
Like, it was one of those moments where, like, I love how it went down because it subverts, like, a lot of the, like, oh, yeah, this guy kind of sucks, but she's going to see something good in him, right?
Right.
Like,
No, dude.
No, she doesn't have to. That's not her job.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like, no, dude. Like, no. And it's like, she was just trying to have a drink, man. She came here. She told you, bro. She seen you see her and then do a U-turn and come into the bar. She was just trying to come and have a drink.
Yeah.
And just because she kind of knows you or whatever it may be doesn't mean that, like...
Dude, yeah.
He was like, I just want to just let me touch your dick. Like, bro, what are you doing, bro? This is where you're completely harassing her. And she literally just whooped this cat's... Like, she just beat on, like, 2 dudes or whatever.
Yeah, dude, I'm not going to...
Because of this. Why then immediately after that?
Dude, right? Like, that's the thing about Peacemaker, though, is, like, he's, like, almost so socially inept.
Yes.
That, like, you almost sit there, like, you almost want to pull him aside and be like, dude, no, you can't do that.
It's like, exactly. It's like, man, it's like... The way he's written and the information that we have on him, and then how we see him as well, it's just like, dude, it just seems like he can't catch a break. He really genuinely wants to do the right thing.
Yeah.
People think he's racist. He may not even really be racist, but does questionable things to make people think that he's racist.
I know.
Because his dad is literally White Dragon.
Yeah, he's seriously. Like, the second that that was real, I'm like, oh, okay.
It makes so much sense, and that's why he's just like, it's just like he wants to do the right thing. He really wanted to be a good person. He really wanted to be a superhero. He really thinks he is a superhero because he really is just trying to help people. But his dad is a sick, twisted person that made him think that it's okay to kill people or whatever it may be. Or maybe he is just a murderer. What is it? Like, there's so much to unpack.
There is a lot to unpack, but there's like one key. Okay, so before getting into the scene, have to address, like, and I've told you this, like, legit maybe the funniest character, Vigilante. Like, dude cracks me up. Because, like, okay. So Vigilante, the only other time that I really encountered Vigilante anywhere else in, like, DC properties or anything was the Arrowverse. And he is taken very seriously in the Arrowverse. Like, he's not Adrian Chase like he is in comic, continuity, but Vigilante's there, and he's in line with kind of the grittier universe that Arrow set up. So that was that's my only other thing with Vigilante. And then I encountered him in this show, and dear God, like,
He's literally so crazy.
It is almost impossible to take him seriously. Like, almost impossible. Like, who's that guy behind the dumpster? Just sticking out. Like, the way that he's written too. Like, now he's almost a foil for, not really a foil, but, like, I think a lot of the answer to whether Peacemaker is really a cold-blooded, like, killer, like that's just naturally is answered by the subtle differences between him and Vigilante. Precisely in the 3rd episode. If you've...
No, why? What's the point? What's the part?
So, like, let's put it this way. So, like, Peacemaker, like, says, like, I love peace. I don't care how many women show it. I need to get it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then when, like, it's interesting because when forced to put up, like, you can't. No.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's like, as much as Vigilante is like played for like comic relief and like he's like that total annoying, like thinks, he's your best friend thing. And even though he's like totally crapped on by every other character, like there's something really like, I don't know why I loved the moment so much, but like him just like tapping on Peacemaker's shoulder, which, yeah, we already said spoiler alert, right? Like through all this, but like tapping on his shoulder and just being like, just step aside, buddy. Like, Vigilante is like a cold-blooded killer, like without question. In fact, he has that whole moment where he's like, do you think I enjoy killing me?
Do you think I enjoy killing those people? What did he say?
It's like, of course I do. Like, dude, no. Like, so yeah, Vigilante is totally the cold-blooded killer.
Yeah, he even like mentions how he kills people for like the smallest crime.
What did
he said when they were smoking, he was like, 3 years ago I would have killed you for doing that. Like, what? It's like, so any crime that's committed, you get to kill people. Okay, Vigilante.
Yeah, he's like a murderous Batman, basically, is how I think of him.
We need to find out what happened to his family.
So there's Vigilante, but the reason why I want to think that it's in at least some universe is because when they're like giving him crap about something, they're giving Peacemaker crap, they mention Batmite. I'm just like, wait a second. This makes total sense that James Gunn would like want them in his universe, but Batmite is now part of that universe canon, which would also make me think that like Mr. Mxyzptlk and all them are like part of canon too. So I'm just sitting here like, dude, this opens the door for a whole bunch of weirder stuff in the DC universe.
Yeah, and it might get really, really weird with what's happening, especially with, Project Butterfly and everything that's happening with that.
Dude, yeah. I am so curious where all that's leading. Because legitimately, I was like, most of the time when I see like a DC thing, like DC comics and all that is like my thing. Like mostly that's what I'd read. So I can pick up on like signs, signals, and figure out like, okay, who's the main villain? What's really happening here? What's the general storyline they're following? On the Butterfly thing, like I'm trying to figure it out the entire time. It's like, maybe it's obvious, but I got nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of lost with that too. We will see, but with James Gunn, it's always like you might think it's obvious, and then it's like,
I mean, he pulled off Starro, so
yeah, he definitely did.
So I don't even. I won't try to.
He brought up Batmite and made that canon. So
dude,
again, so like. It's all over. You never know what might happen. Also, that kind of makes Batfleck kind of make a little bit more sense, I suppose, if he was tormented by Batmite.
Dude, right? Like, dude, but like here's like going back to like wish lists and like the multiverse and like Batmite and stepping stone to like Mr. Mxyzptlk. So opening a door for all that actually would open the door for a movie adaptation, live action, of one of my favorite Superman stories, which is Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Because Mxyzptlk is like a huge presence in that. So it's like, I would love if somehow him being confirmed led to like expanding upon or like adapting stories like that.
I mean, a lot of this is kind of opening up a lot of the DCEU for what it's going to be. I hear there's going to be some sort of Green Lantern tie-in or something like that. So who knows what what they're doing with this? But James Gunn has that experience, like working with like a universe expanding, situation where. I mean, there's so many things in Guardians of the Galaxy that tied into, other, MCU films that you didn't even necessarily think it would necessarily tie into sometimes. Some of them were very clear, but, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with this, but I'm thoroughly enjoying Peacemaker, like thoroughly. Like, can't wait for Thursday thoroughly.
Yeah, dude. Like, I'm almost begrudgingly loving it because, like, again, like, going from the Suicide Squad of just, like, being so happy when, like, Bloodsport shot him in the neck. Like, just being so happy when that happened to now, like, every week. Like, not now every week when the next episode airs, but these 3 episodes just sitting there, like, almost wanting to be like, you know what? Maybe you will get him tomorrow, man. Like, maybe you can be a hero someday. Like,
Peacemaker, man. Like, what did you think about Amanda Waller? I thought I was like, yo, snap, this is serious. Oh, I didn't know. I thought they were just making a show, and that was the point for me where I was like, oh, this is serious. Like, they'll tie in whoever, because that's a get. It wasn't like a long scene or anything like that.
No. I even thought about that myself. Like, driving over here is like, she's literally there for like 2 minutes. Sets up and this is what blew my mind about that. Is like, it's the first time that I think I've seen a depiction of Amanda Waller outside of like a rare interaction with Batman where she's been vulnerable or soft in any way. So like, even before she mentioned like, you know, mom or daughter, I was just like, oh, that's really? Because like, it's the only time. And so like, I thought that was really interesting actually to include Amanda Waller, but that part of her character. Because it's like, it's going to be very interesting if that's to see the daughter deal with the different Amanda Wallers that people know.
Right.
She's the only one that knows her that way.
You're right. Like the real Amanda Waller. And then also, because there's some sort of like there's like some sort of, she's doing
some weird thing.
She's doing some undercover, situation for Amanda Waller on this team. It almost seems like, I forget his name, the team lead guy.
Bloodsport?
No. The
Oh,
guy that works on
Merv?
Yeah, something like that. I believe it's just a character they made for the show. But there's something like, I feel like she doesn't trust him, or he's like, the whole mission that he's doing is like something. It almost seems like it's like he's doing it unbeknownst to Amanda Waller, or Amanda Waller knows about all of the whole mission.
Dude, there's
because she sent him out here, but it just seems like for some reason, like him showing his feelings and all of this, like him, like he's like, there's something about him that seems like he doesn't like his past, or he's trying to atone for his past.
Exactly.
But he's worked under Amanda Waller the whole time, and Amanda Waller don't play that mess. And why would she send her daughter there undercover, and someone there isn't a target? And I mean, yeah, they're watching Peacemaker, but of course they're watching Peacemaker.
If you follow that line, it's almost like maybe she's checking to see if he's gone too soft in the end.
Ooh, get him out of there. Yeah, maybe.
Because, she's still Amanda Waller.
But then Amanda Waller's daughter seems like she is like caring and actually cares about people. She didn't just murk that guard.
I know.
And he, like, that was so horrible. He's like, I have two.
I've been married
for 16 years. I have 2 kids. I love them.
Yeah, and of course she's sitting there like, you're making it worse by prolonging it. Like, yeah, because it's like, it's true. It's like, but no, like, I am very curious. There's so much going on. Like, there's so many little plots going on with it. None of them like too much or anything. It's like, it's just, I'm really curious where it's leading. Because really, with James Gunn, the Suicide Squad, all of that stuff, it's not beholden to like following the same pattern as, let's say, Batman, The Flash, anything like that. Like, they're very much periphery people. So it's like,
anything could really happen.
Yeah, he can play around any way that he wants to in that sandbox. So it's like, I have no idea where this is going, but I'm totally going to be there every week for it.
Yeah, man, I can't wait, man. Man, well,
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think
Yeah,
we might
dude.
wrap it up, man. That was a great talk, man.
Yeah.
Man, what do you guys think? We want to hear about what you guys think for one. What were your thoughts on Spider-Man? I know you guys have been talking about it. I know you have an opinion by now. Throw that down in the comments below. And then also, your thoughts on Peacemaker. I'm having a great time on it. Do you like it? Have you even seen it? Let us know in the comments below. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry that we spoiled it for you, but that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen on the show. So if you're not ready, it will let you know what we're talking about. And if you're not ready to hear everything that's happened with that subject, then wait until you see it and then come watch the episode or listen to the episode. However you may be experiencing this, because we'll have the audio, we'll have the visual for you guys, and we hope to see you back. But again, we don't have a name.
Yeah,
figure that out, and
yeah, guys, and if you want to throw in there some Elseworlds things you'd like to see in film, like how I mentioned whatever happened to Man Tomorrow and that kind of thing, maybe we can talk about that too. But thanks for listening, watching, however you encountered us.
Oh yeah, make sure you subscribe, follow, like, all of that good stuff, and share this with your friends that are into great, fun, nerdy things like us, because we will be doing a lot of this. So we will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much.
Yep. See you guys next time.
Peace.